Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome to the most electrifying episode on social media, the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder, Nat King Code, coming to you live from the Mile High City, joined by my awesome co-host, Mr. King James Stalkup, over there in Big Sky Country, Texas, giving old hook 'em horns and a boo Dallas for the Dallas Stars going down. We got old DJ up in the house already, so awesome. DJ's go ass, baby. We got him, man. We got this one. It's gonna be a good series, and I'm sure we'll have a little bit of smack talk back and forth. We might
Are
have
y'all
to.
playing Dallas first?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Starts on Saturday, and we win. We're leading the series. Like we're leading the regular season series.
hmm.
We beat you guys twice, so
I did not know that. I hadn't been
yeah.
keeping up
So
then. So
they did go ahead of us in the standings by one, but like I say, we'll see. I'm a little nervous about going up against Miko Rantanen. He was one of our stars, and he got traded over there to you guys. So I'm not really happy about having to go up against him. That's why we traded him to Carolina, because we didn't want to play him in the playoffs. But then he got traded to the Stars, so now we got to play Miko Rantanen. But it
oh
is what it
well.
is. We'll have our little. We'll have to have like a friendly bet or something. Like you go buy a Avs jersey and wear it on the show, and I'll go buy a Stars jersey and wear it on the show. We
I only
lose or
do
something.
that for football. I don't even know hockey. You know that.
Oh come on, man! You scared? Bark, bark, bark.
I
Uh,
don't even know if they sell any Mav or Avalanche jerseys here.
yeah, they sell them online. You just
Oh,
go
go
online
online.
and
Okay.
order it right to your house. Um, but no, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll be kind of jawing back and forth. We have a really easy Willie quiz. I want to say thanks so much to Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. She had me as a guest last night. It was a lot of fun. We had some really good dialogue. And I was kind of teaching her about that continuous load and the 80%. Remember we did the 80% myth? Um,
Oh yeah, for
and
overcurrent device.
I couldn't believe it was actually in the code at one time, and then they
Yeah, it
started doing
used to
that.
be. I think it was 384-16D. I think it was. That they talked about that, and it talked about the overcurrent device couldn't be loaded more than 80%. What happened was a lot of people do their continuous and non-continuous loads, get the amperage in, they go to the breaker and derate it 80%.
Right.
They didn't even really know what it really meant, and there was a lot of us out there instructing at the time had to explain the reciprocal between 80 and 125%. It was already taken care of, and we did that on our podcast to explain that in further detail. So,
Yeah, and she didn't even know that there's such a thing as a 100% rated breaker.
oh yes, there is.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to send her that picture. But big shout out, go check out Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector. She's really sharp when it comes to knowing listing and labeling and making sure that the NEC does not override that. That was
Yep.
funny. That cracked me up. She was just quiet for. She's like, "Go what? Repeat that? What you just?" That was hilarious. But I really appreciate all the participation I had in Nat King Code. It's so much fun. I have a blast doing these every week, and like I say, me and King James have been kind of just putting it together, and now all of a sudden King James wants a new segment. I'm like, really, dude? You were just giving me crap for adding segments. Now you want to add a segment, so you know,
You know.
we'll
I
see.
Also, if I can just grab the screen for a minute, give everybody an update and let everybody sort of see what everything looks like and what is about to happen. We've got now where, and I'll pull this up, everybody can see it. The first chapter is already done, but this will be the new, click that. This will be the first part here, chapter one, and this is the new code change book 2026.
Okay.
So everybody can get a good look at what the illustrations are going to be looking at. They look really, really good. And we put a lot of work into it, going back and everything. And you're going to start to notice images just a little bit for everybody to see what they're going to have to be aware of from the process that we've already finished. These are all, this is just definitions of it all the way to, we even drew here we even drew what the top of it looks like with all the labeling and everything. That's what I tell you. Go compare, you'll see the difference in detail of what we've done with this process. But the one I want to show everybody is coming up. This in here is sort of showing some of the high voltage connectors, a new where you got your electrical connections for over 1,000 volts. That's new 110.40. That's like looking at 110.14. But this is where you need to know what you're getting into, because Article 220 has moved to Article 120 now. Okay,
that's so weird. I don't understand that one.
Yeah, we've gone in. We've just gone in, cross-referenced all the sections and everything to make sure, because there's a lot of stuff that's moved around here. So you're gonna, and then they did some stuff, and what used to be 220.60, it's now 120.6, where you get into non-coincident loads. So you're gonna have to be familiar where some of the sections move, but the main thing is you're gonna have to be real familiar with Article 220 moving to Article 120 now. So what we did, we went in, and where there was a change, we went ahead and fixed those changes and everything. And one of the things you're going to notice is there's a lot of work that was done that's going to be dealing with EVSE. Okay.
Right.
So we've come in, we've hit that up. And then this you need to pay attention to here, because they're getting in and they've done a lot of different stuff here where they're dealing with an existing dwelling unit. Okay. So we've got it set in here. We're telling you exactly what to look for and everything. And then we get in and talk about the percent. It took us 4 illustrations to sort of show everybody so you know exactly what took place here.
You know, everybody's been giving me a hard time, man. I added one word to 62554, and now it adds 2 pages, and everyone's giving me a hard time.
Well, we hadn't got to that one yet to tell you how many illustrations it's going to be. Okay. But they also did here in multifamily dwelling, and they've separated now. One's called conditions, the other's where it gets into your total demand. And then you got your number of units and stuff. None of that changed. So what we did is to show a couple of things that took place here with the multifamily dwelling, and then we're giving you a quick calc of what you would look at for the units and everything. So we've broke all that down. And then they've also done some work here where they've changed when you're dealing with your demand factors that you can apply to the general purpose branch circuit for healthcare facilities when you're calculating receptacle load. So you're going to have to be familiar with this now. Then they also did a number here where they're getting in and you're dealing with, you have a specific type of patient care related electrical equipment, and how you are allowed to go in and use demand factors for that when you're in a healthcare facility. So you're going to have to be familiar with that. And then Article 130, this has been moved, and it's now moved up to the front where we're dealing with energy management systems. And now this is going to be Article 130. So we sort of laid out and showed the things where you've got your servo and everything set in place here for these systems. And we sort of drew the board and everything so you can see what everything looks like. So everything is very detailed, but that's the last of chapter 1, and now we're in chapter 2. And I figured just after we finish the first 2 chapters, there's going to be close to 100 illustrations just in the first 2 chapters.
That's crazy.
So that's where we're at, folks.
What's your pops think about all these? Like, does he agree with them? Does he not? Is he all right?
Well, we've gotten over. We've looked at a few different things. We don't agree with 110.3B first and foremost,
Right.
and I'm waiting to see what happens on that. I have a feeling some things might get deleted, or changed when we get to the Standards Council, and maybe even when they go where they do the adoption of the code on the 4th NFPA meeting, there could be some people voting that don't agree with it. And then the other one, there's some arguments going on about 210.8F, and from my understanding, there's a lot of people in the AC organizations and HVAC. I hear that the EVSE people, all of them, they're not happy with what's going on here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's some names from my understanding that are going to be out, and there's apparently going to be some arguments going on. So we'll see where we go from there. But I think that you and I may have had something to do with it, because we've been on here telling everybody that's a bunch of crap. Yeah. And I think a lot of people listen. As a matter of fact, we may end up having a sponsor, and it's they got 7 locations across the United States, their supply chain, and they actually contacted me, and so we're going to get into discussions. Matter of fact, as I talked to them, they were even interested in them funding it, and me putting a thing together on some of the products that they sell, and having a publication that'll be for free that you'll be able to get from our learning management system that they're going to promote. And just in their social media and stuff, they had over, I think, 250,000 through all their social media. And then we work out something they're going to take, and they're going to be every Thursday, they'll be pushing it out, the podcast and everything. And then we'll have an intro with them and everything. So we'll see what happens. But, sort of unbelievable, isn't it?
I'm really sure that really what they like is my easy quizzes, like how easy my quizzes are. Pretty much, I let you win every week, so
I'll say one thing she did say. She's looked at a lot of different podcasts and everything they're looking at. She said that our podcast was awesome. They love the layout, everything we're doing and everything. So we'll see where it goes, but 3 years in, and now look what's happening. It just keeps building. So,
dude, it's so much fun. And you're such a good sport when it comes to the quiz and stuff. But you could tell deep down you want to know every single one. And I don't know, might happen this week. You might know every single one this week.
What's it on?
Pickles and hockey, Canadian hockey.
Oh God. Oh, wait, they keep going Canadian hockey, and I'm going to be missing everything like I did that one time.
Well, it's pretty easy. I made it easy. Yeah. It's ones that you know in Canada, so.
Yeah, well, I don't live in Canada, so I wouldn't know. I'm just, Adam going to be here tonight?
Yeah.
I'm just going to copy his answers.
All right. Yeah. So I found out the reason why he was drinking pickle juice was because of Moss Sports World. Old freaking Chris Moss was telling him to drink pickle juice to not cramp up on his podcast. So that's why he was drinking pickle juice when I first saw him. And so that got revealed, Moss Sports World. So if you guys want to find out why Adam from Team SOS was drinking out of the pickle jar, it was because of Moss. So.
Okay. Well, I remember back when I was growing up, we were playing Little League and stuff. At halftime, when we were playing football, we used to always drink pickle juice. They'd bring around shots of pickle juice to give to the kids. We were like, but I guarantee you felt better. All the electrolytes, everything that was in it, man, it'd pop you right back up. So, we were doing that back, I guess I was probably 8 years old. So, old remedies.
Yeah, well, that was the secret. So it is not a Canadian thing. So
that's freaking awesome.
So I guess let's go do the meme.
All right, let's roll.
So,
All right, that's pretty good. Strip club, and all the strippers were on there stripping the wire. That's clever.
so, so there's been some kind of trend that's been on social media where they've been having AI generate these little like fake figurines and stuff,
Oh, really?
and so that's one of them. And it was just a little trend, but I thought I would go ahead and post that one up. It's been going around everywhere. Everyone's been sharing it and stuff, but it's pretty funny. Electricians are known to be, great. Uh, have all that money and everything. So I'm sure that's the number one thing in there. So
That's freaking awesome. I love
yeah.
it. All right,
So I guess we will go to myth of the week.
here we go.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right. So this one is really controversial. A lot of people were giving me a hard time about this one. I'm just kind of going off kind of what I've seen in when we work in gas and oil and stuff, and when you actually have a sleeve that is a raceway that is only complete on one end or not complete on either end, then you don't need to worry about conduit fill and you don't need to worry about adjustment factors. And the reason why is because you're exposed to open air, and so that one portion of the circuit where you're using it as a sleeve actually gets it basically acts like a heat sink. And so even if you do build up a little bit of heat in that area, it will actually disperse once it hits the cold air. And so we do this a lot on like tray cable, where we have like sleeve tray cable from the control building to the cable tray. And honestly, I've never seen an adjustment calculation or any kind of adjustment on these. And it's just one of the things that like kind of I actually had this question for you and you kind of brought it up, and it was interesting to me because I've never like remember doing any kind of adjustment correction on any of those cables. And most of the time we're oversizing those raceway sleeves so that we could fit as many cables in there as possible. But a lot of times it's a lot of discrete, so they're not a lot of ampacity. It's just, like maybe like a 2 amp cable and you have like 20 of them in there. But typically all you're doing is you're using that to protect the cable from damage where it's getting out to the tray. And then from there, it goes out to whatever device that you have out in the field. And a lot of people are confused by it. And so if you go into chapter 9, table 1, note 2, it says that that table only applies to raceways that are complete on both ends. So the only reason I know this is because I actually submitted a definition for 2026 and to define sleeve, and they said it doesn't need to be defined because it's already defined in chapter 9, table 1, note 2 and 4. So pretty interesting. And like I say, I know you have kind of a little bit more to kind of build on this, but that's as far as I went with it, and pretty interesting.
Okay, first of all, let me pop this up. Of course, we get our troll on, as always.
Yeah.
Where does it say that you don't have to adjust? Well, I'll take it a step further. Where does it say you have to adjust?
True.
That's first and foremost. And I will prove my point here since he wants to make a comment here. So this, once again, where we get into arguments with Jeremy and these CD boys, they think they're the final rule, and anybody disagrees with them, they come on and try to slander you and everything.
Yeah, and he's saying that the fill only applies to it, not the adjustment. But the whole thing is, it's like, what do you think the fill is? What is that? So you could fill it to 100%, but then
there isn't, and I'm going to explain why. Because when you go and you look at and I'm going to show what NFPA even says on. Okay, so you got note 2 there. It says table 1 only applies. Now listen to this, to complete conduit or tubing systems. Okay, so that means it's complete from end to end. A sleeve is not complete from end to end.
A nipple is complete from end to end.
That's right. And when you brought this up, that was the first thing I told you. I said, no, I said it has to be complete on both ends. It's not a raceway if it's not. And it says, and it's not intended to apply to sections of conduit or tubing used to protect exposed wiring or cable from physical damage. And basically, when you take a section of conduit or tubing, what is that for? As a sleeve, it's protecting it from physical damage. And that was one of the things, when you asked me about it, I specifically said that does not apply to that. Okay? No, it's not just for fit. Okay, well, just hold on. I will go over and we will read and see who's got it. Okay? So this was from NFPA Enhanced Content. It says the maximum fill requirements do not apply to short sections of conduit or tubing used for physical protection of conductors and cables. Okay? Then it says cables commonly are protected from physical damage by conduit or tubing sleeves. They literally tell you it's a sleeve. Ties to enable the cable to be passed through or welded without injuring or abrading the protective jacket of the cable. Okay, so I'm just going to, well, there is one other part here. They say also go look at the requirements of 300.5D1 in regards to physical protection for direct buried cables and conductors as they emerge from below grade as an example of conduit or tubing being used as a protective sleeve. That goes without saying. Now, if I go over, and I didn't put this on there, but since he's saying this, if the adjustment factors apply, if I go look at 310.15C1, it talks about more than 3 current carrying conductors, but it'll tell you that the ampacity of each one of those conductors are permitted to be reduced. And this is where you have the number of current carrying conductors, and what it says, in a raceway or cable exceeds 3. Okay? Now, if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at this right here and I'm looking at a sleeve that's put on there, that is not a raceway. Yeah. It's telling you it's a sleeve. It's not from end to end. So if I go back here and I look right here at note 2, it says that it has to be a complete conduit or tubing system. Well, how can it be complete if I don't complete it on one end? Yeah. So therefore, if you go look at the informational note here, this ties it in even more, and it specifically tells you that by NFPA Enhanced Content, they're telling you that that is considered a sleeve, and that is to protect those cables from what? Physical damage.
Yeah, so like one of the situations that I brought up to you was like, let's just say you have 10 cables that are just coming out of the underground and they're direct bury, and you just sleeve them through a PVC into the panel. Why would you need to adjust? I don't get that. It's a short section. It's not complete on both ends. All it's doing is protecting from emergence from grade, which is required.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this goes back, like I was saying, you can go all through the NEC, and there's all kinds of places in there that they talk about a sleeve.
Yeah.
And now
they don't give you a length on that either.
Yeah, and what I'm saying here is when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the NFPA enhanced content, and then I go look at 310.15C1 and it tells me it has to be a raceway. What are you going to do now? You're going to tell me a sleeve's a raceway and that the ampacity adjustment factors apply there? I just don't agree with that. And let's see what he's asking here. He said that's just for feel. Let's see. 200. Let's see what he's got here. So you can run 200 feet in a conduit and not have to adjust as long as. Now, see, this is what you get into when you get stuff like this. They give you something that nobody is going to put 200 foot of conduit in as a sleeve. This is where it gets ridiculous. A sleeve is to protect from physical damage. That's it. It ain't used for anything else. And for you to give these hypotheticals, why would you run 200 foot sleeve? First of all, you want to talk about inadequate installation. That's inadequate. And if you're running at 200 foot, why wouldn't you just complete it on both ends?
Yeah.
I mean, when they make comments like this is exactly what I'm talking about. They give these far out installations that could happen, saying, well, this could happen, this could happen. Well, I can tell you, if I was an inspector, I went out and I saw a 200 foot sleeve, I'd say, no, you're not doing that. Well, there's nobody going to allow you to put a 200 foot sleeve in. Usually, when you put a sleeve in, usually a sleeve don't go more than 10 foot.
Yeah, I was going to say that I would say the large majority of the stuff that we see on gas and oil is less than 10% of the run. So if it's less than 10% of the run, you can use 310-15 less than 10% of the run. So, it's just the whole thing that's funny is, like, when something doesn't apply, these guys just act like, oh, this applies when we want it to. It doesn't apply when we don't want it to. And Chapter 9 basically says that this only applies to raceways that are completed on both ends. If it's not completed on both ends, it's a sleeve.
Well, let me take it a little further, and this is another example. Here's Jeremy again. Look at the definition of raceway. Okay, well, it's this is a good example. It says it's an enclosed channel designed expressly for holding wires, cables, or bus bars with additional functions as permitted in this code. Okay.
Oh, and ask the lady in electrical inspector. She has a good comment in here. 310-15C for 24-inch sleeve, but I think the 24-inch, wouldn't that be considered a nipple from box to box?
Yes. Anything 24 inches or less is a nipple. Okay? As long as I've been doing this, we have always have said that if you're 24 inches or less, it's a nipple. And I've sat there and I've listened to them argue over this. And I tell them, I say, if you go in and you look at note 4, it says where conduit or tubing nipples, not including connectors, have a maximum length not to exceed 24 inches. Okay. And it says installed between boxes, cabinets, similar closures. It tells you here, the nipples shall be permitted filled 60%. They're literally telling you 24 inches or less is considered what? A nipple. Anything above that is what? A raceway. But it's connected from end to end, just like a nipple is. A sleeve is totally different from this.
We could tell that DJ, he just showed up for the comments. So right on Daniel, thanks for just showing up for the comments.
Well, my whole point behind it is is when I look at this and I'm getting into uh, the sleeves and things like that and nipples, everything, ever since I've been doing this, even when I was going through apprenticeship, they always taught us 24 inches or less is a nipple. Anything above that is a raceway. I've always been taught that, been no different.
Yeah,
And then
and Tabitha's
when I've been out on the job, and I've worked out on the job, and we put a sleeve in, and this is just the way we were taught. A sleeve was never more than 10 foot, period. And in other words, you could never go longer than a length stick of conduit. That's the way we were taught.
Right.
And there was no field requirements, anything. And there wasn't any reduction of any conductors for any type of correction factors, adjustment factors, anything. Because what they looked at is you say one end's open and therefore the heat can escape.
True. And, like Tabitha makes a good point on current carrying conductors. So typically, just so everyone realizes it, anytime you go 3 or more, then you have to have that adjustment. So that's a good comment, and that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, I've never seen us adjust on when we're going from like the control building to cable tray. Usually all we're doing is exactly what you're saying, James, is we're going like say underground out of the control building, then we just pop up at the tray and then it changes over to tray cable into the tray. And a lot of times we're going like, let's just say for example, Weedman says it's a 200-foot sleeve from the control building to the tray, right? Let's just say hypothetically, that's usually a 2,000-foot run, and a lot of times we're running number 4 for like a 60 amp motor, so what would be the reason you need to derate, and a lot of times what these guys don't realize, and it was really awesome to be on Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast and be kind of bringing up some of these myths that we kind of explore and dive into. Like, let's just say that you have 15 current carrying conductors with number 10, right? And they're all 20 amp circuits. Well, if you go into the deration is 50%. And so at 50%, you're still good, because when you do that adjustment, you go off the 90-degree C column. So number 10 is good for 40 amps on the 90-degree C column. And then you cut that in half, you're still golden. At 50% deration, you're still golden with number 10. So there's no reason to even worry about deration. Yeah, you're derating at 50%, but your circuits are still good for 20 amps. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that stuff is kind of the behind the scenes math that me and King James might not be kind of sharing with you guys while we're doing this and talking about it. But when it's just a sleeve, you have these tray cables that a lot of times we're oversizing that sleeve anyway. We want it to be easy to pull through, Mm-hmm. But we're running like a 2-inch with like 10 cables in it, And so the fill is not required, but you have so much displacement of that air from transferring from a sleeve to free air that you're not going to build up bundling heat in there. The only time you're going to have that is when you're just totally packing that full with a ton of current carrying conductors. I would say, especially if you go more than 20, but I don't really see you being able to really exceed that more than 20 current carrying conductors in that situation. So it's pretty interesting.
I look at this from, I don't want to consider it a different perspective, but when I'm looking at this, and I saw Jeremy, he put in here again, where's that 10-foot rule? I'll wait. Well, I'll give you an example, Jeremy. If I go over and I look at 310.15 C1C, they're specifically talking about underground conductors. Okay. And they're talking about where they're leaving the trench outdoor and they're coming up, and it says adjustment factors shall not apply to underground conductors entering, leaving an outdoor trench if those conductors have physical protection in the form of rigid, intermediate, or PVC or reinforced thermosetting resin conduit. And they tell you having a length not exceeding 10 foot. And since it's coming outside inside, it allows you to go up 10 foot, and it says, and if the number of conductors does not exceed 4.
Right. So
that's where the basis, where they used to teach, where they would say don't put more than a 10-foot length on there. Okay. And then like Tabitha was saying, when you look at B, it says adjustment factors shall not apply to conductors and raceways having a length not exceeding 24 inches. And in other words, what they're telling you there is that's where it's connected from end to end. So if you got a nipple, which is 24 inches less, that's connected end to end. You don't apply any adjustment factors. Anything over 24 inches, that's a raceway that connects at both ends per note 2 of chapter 9, table 1. Then you have to apply them. If it's a sleeve, you're not connecting on both ends. So it's not a raceway at that point. A raceway has to connect at both ends.
Yeah.
Okay?
Of course it does.
And that's the way I've always been taught, and that's the way I've always viewed that. And I think when you look at C1 and you look at where the 10-foot rule come at, that's a good example of that in C, where you're coming from underground. But when you get inside, it's a whole different thing, because when you're in there, you could be running, 20 cables in there. And think of this also. There's another thing. You have to determine, and this is another calculation. You'll remember me doing this on the podcast, Bill. You could take and have a whole lot of conductors in there, but you only have to look at which ones are current carrying. Okay?
Right.
So you could have a lot of conductors in there, but not all of them are current carrying conductors. So if they're not all current carrying conductors, there's different percentage fields and everything that you'll use, looking over at table 310. B11. It used to be 15B11, but 310.15 B11, and you go over there, there's two different calculations to do that based on what's considered current carrying within there. So, but I still wouldn't do that for a sleeve.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll take kind of a step further when we run into like the gas and oil stuff, a lot of times, for one, we run a lot of spare conductors which aren't counted, and then we run a lot of non-coincident loads. So there's no way that all those processes are going to be running simultaneously.
Let me get into this one too. So if someone has a conduit less than 24 inches, can you ignore chapter 3? What part of chapter 3 are you talking about, Jeremy?
How can you ignore something?
Are you talking about supporting or something? I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about Article 310 and you're looking at 310.15, well, 310.15 C1B tells you it's 24 inches or less. You don't have to worry about it. So which part of chapter 3 are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he says conduit filling and passage have nothing to do with it. Yeah, it doesn't. It didn't have one thing to do with it. Nobody ever said it did. Oh, he says, I'm talking supporting. Oh, wow.
Why do you have to support a nipple?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I've seen where you've had equipment next to each other and it's less than 24 inches. I don't ever see anybody supporting it.
It's not required.
This is where you get in to somebody trying to prove their argument, and they're not looking at the realization of what it actually. And Tappa, this is good for you. If it was 24 inches or less, do you require support on it? I mean, I've never seen an inspector require a support on something that's 24 inches or less.
Yeah, and so just so Tabitha knows, kind of, we've been in this argument before. If you go into 358.30 A and B, kind of my argument is it'll say in there that if you have a EMT that's 3 foot, within 3 foot, and you have a stud, then you can use the stud as support. So that's totally fine. And if you ask me, you'd use the stud as support, and it's supported within 3 foot. Now, let's just say you have one that's 30 inches. Nothing in the code says that a support's not required. It says must be securely fastened within 36 inches. Is 30 inches within 36 inches? Yeah. And how do you support it? How do you fasten something in place without using something? How do you just use air? I'm fine if there's something in the code, and I think they're coming out 2026, going to say that no support of conduit shall be unsupported less than 36 or something like that, which will kind of open up the thing that now we have a 36-inch nipple or whatnot. But I'm just starting to think that Weed Man has some floppy nipples. That's obviously, I think that's what it is. I think it's just floppy nipples. But, you know.
Just sort of wrap this up. I'm not going to argue with him on that. Basically, I look at Chapter 9, Table 1, Note 2. You got to be complete on both ends. If it's 24 inches or less, it's a nipple. It specifically states that in Note 4. And then if I go look at 310.15C1, it says in order to apply the adjustment and correction factors, it has to be a raceway. And therefore, a sleeve is not a raceway. Matter of fact, if you go in and you look at the enhanced content from NFPA, they do not call it a raceway sleeve. They just say it's a sleeve.
So this one's interesting because Weedman says if you have flexible metallic conduit, can you run it in a wet location if it's less than 24 inches? Because we're just ignoring Chapter 3. Well, this is where you go with the listing and labeling and the manufacturer instructions, and they do not permit that to be ran in a wet location. So it has nothing to do with the code.
No. He's just wanting to argue to be arguing. I mean, he comes on here every week just wanting to argue. And I feel sorry I hope he doesn't teach that to his students.
Yeah, so I want to just have a big shout out for everyone joining the Myth of the Week this week. So much fun. And the myth is confirmed that a sleeve does not require any kind of ampacity adjustment or fill. Honestly, this kind of opened my eyes, because when you first started talking to me about it, it made sense. I was like, okay, what are we doing? Like, why are we counting conductors for conduit fill? Because we're trying to figure out what our adjustment percentage is. So why would we even be using an adjustment percentage if all of a sudden fill is not required to apply? But then why would we need to count conductors if it doesn't apply to fill? What are we counting? What are we counting for? Doesn't apply.
Where does the listing say? Well, you put flexible metal conduit, and if you go look at 348.12.1, it specifically tells you can't use it in a wet location, Jeremy.
Yeah, listed not use is not permitted.
Oh, but Jeremy, remember that doesn't apply because the code overrides the listing and labeling anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the same thing as sitting there saying that you could use set screw fittings, because it says set screw fittings are only listed for dry locations, But it just blows me away that he doesn't get it. Like, I don't know how you teach for the IBW, brother, man.
You know what it is? It's picking and choosing when you want to apply something if it helps your stance.
100%. 100%. Well, I guess we'll go on to getting into the 2026.
We actually get started on 110. The last time, because 2 weeks ago we had tap on. Last week I couldn't make it because I had to go. We're working on a job over on the other side of Dallas, and Mark Odie. We met with Mark and everything, and afterwards, Mark Odie and us, we all went and had dinner and everything together. And I hadn't seen him in a while. That job, everything's going on. He's going to be back up in end of May or June, and they'll be back in August, September, something we're working on. And we're going to get together and go hang out again. But I told him, don't do it on a Thursday next time. So I sort of made sure he knew that. So
that's cool. Well, especially if we get sponsored, man, we gotta get those LED people up in here, man. It's gonna be awesome. Let them know.
I tell you, I'm shocked that I was contacted. I've been contacted by two others, and there's a possibility by the first next year, maybe in the summer, we could have 2 or 3 sponsors on here.
Nice.
So the podcast is doing great, and we appreciate everybody that comes on, supports it. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, though, on YouTube, because, I mean, I get 360, 70 something. I hadn't even kept up. But it's growing and growing.
Definitely make sure you check out the Nat King Code podcast. This will be featured on Nat King Code podcast, as well as the Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. Such a good time. And thanks so much, Tabitha. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody that's been sharing the podcast and everything. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, get your bell rung, all that stuff, whatever they say. So, all right, let's roll into topic of the week, and I'll keep everybody updated what's taking place so far. All right. This week we're going to get in where we're going to start looking at Article 110, and we'll go in and talk about some of the things that have taken place. And one of the changes, I actually agree with this change, but what they did, they added a new informational note number 2 and added a little bit of wording to the informational note number 1. So in essence, what they did, they made a revision to the informational notes. And the reason they did this and created 2 separate informational notes, this is to help provide consistency in the way that they're to be presented in the National Electrical Code. So in other words, when you look at note 1 that talks about 90.7, your examination of equipment for safety, it tells you, look at that. And then 110.3b, it says examination, identification, installation, and then they put in here use and listing product certification of equipment. Then they said, and you'll remember this is one of the things, and I swear, you would think they were looking at our design book or our 70E book or some of our code change books, because we'll have put in there, and you'll see this whenever you get in the code change book, and you can go back and look at others. We would have an NEC loop where we were talking about like 110.2 or 110.3, something like that. We would have an NEC loop, and we would have all the definitions that you need to look at as a loop. And then we put all the sections in another loop that you would look at, and you would combine the 2 together. Okay?
Yeah, and I really like this because this is exactly what we were talking with Tabitha about, how the AHJ has the examination of equipment for safety, and you're using 110.3 as the guideline for that examination, and that's to me that's perfect.
Yeah,
it all lines up.
I'm gonna tell you something else you are going to see in this cycle of the code also, and you can go back and look at some of our previous publications. We used to take, instead of writing it out all the time, we used to create all these abbreviations like OCPD, OL, OLS, OLP. I mean, we had all kinds of abbreviations that we used throughout, and we actually had, at the back of the book, we have a big abbreviation list. We were the first to ever do it. Well, now you're starting to see the code come in, and they're doing a lot of abbreviations now.
On the next Willie Quiz, abbreviations. No.
Okay, now this is one that I don't agree with. What they did, they added a new sentence in here. It says, such instructions shall result in an installation and use that complies with the requirements within this code. Now, that I do not agree with. That I agree with. What I disagree with was what they had in their substantiation, and this is what we put it in here. I'm not sure if this is going to stay or not, but they made a revision here, and this was to help clarify that the National Electrical Code supersedes the product installation and use instructions. Now, first of all, let me say this. If I come over here, and this is something I also want to take a look at, because I want to point something out for everybody to see just why I have a problem with this. Okay. Now, I actually, go ahead.
Oh, well, to me, it seems really super contradictory because the code says use this as examination, identification, installation, and you must comply with that per the code. But then they're like, unless it doesn't agree with the code.
Well, the second part of this, they said, this revision makes it clear that product installation use instructions shall not compromise safety and also conform with the requirements of the National Electrical Code. Now, let me explain why I have a problem with this. First of all, I think NFPA, if something happened, and I'll just give an example. Let's say that you come in and you required, and I've got an AC unit there, and you said you got to put GFCI protection on that. The code says I don't care what you say. As a contractor, first of all, I would have the inspector sign off on that, and because it's not compatible. Now, take you're here in Texas, and let's say that GFCI trips because there's an incompatibility issue with it, and second of all, it's not now. But let's just say that was the case, and let's say there's no person up there didn't know what to do and died of heat exhaustion. All right, heat stroke,
which actually happened.
If this come to me, I can tell you right now, as the representing expert on the other side, NFPA would be brought into this, just because of this comment right here that they supersede what that product installation use instructions say. If the manufacturer comes in and says there's compatibility issues, do not put GFCI protection on, something happens, all of a sudden who's responsible? Because you did exactly what the manufacturer told you not to do. Okay? There becomes a problem at that point. And based on what it says right here, they literally said they supersede what it says. Now, I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to show you why I have a problem with this. If I go over and I'm going to share the screen here, and I'm going to look at 1910.7, okay, of OSHA. Now,
OSHA can't come to my house, dude.
Let me increase the size of this just a little bit so everybody can see it.
All
right. Now, when I look at this, it says in look at C2 first. It says, compatible with and maintain current with periodic revision of applicable National Electrical Codes and installation standards. Okay? So if they come in, this is a test standard that you're developing for this, and you have a new code come in, guess what's going to happen? If there's anything that affects that product standard there, in order to do the testing for it, and you do it in such a way that you've created an ANSI safety designated product standard, or the other one is called the ASTM, which is your American Society for Testing Materials test standard. Those are used for product evaluation of materials and products, everything, right? Then if I look at C3, it says that this is developed by a standards developing organization under a method providing for input and consideration of views. And look who it says, industry groups. So that could be anybody from the NEC, anybody that's on any of them code making panels or anything that deal with product certification, experts, users, consumers, governmental authorities, and others having broad experience in the safety field involved. Now, if they're going and designing by the current National Electrical Code, and this is where I start having my problem with this. If I'm designing by the current National Electrical Code, how are they going to come in and then all of a sudden have the attitude that the listing and labeling is compromising the safety of the equipment, and not only to the equipment but to personnel that are going to be around that equipment? And then I'll take it another step further. I've seen no evidence where they've come in and they've showed where there was problems with like an AC unit, EVSE, any of that type of equipment where people were getting killed because the equipment was inadequate. Usually when somebody got hurt, it was because of a bad installation. True. Or two, it was because they were working on it and wasn't applying the proper safety procedures in order to work on that equipment while it was energized.
Yeah, and I talked about that on Tabitha's podcast, that what we try to do as installers is we try to make sure that we comply with the trio, NFPA 70, NFPA 70E, and NFPA 70B. We want the maintenance on the equipment. We want to be working on it in a safe manner, and we want to keep with the current code. And the whole reason this turned into a big deal is because we basically made the statement that all the manufacturer has to do is say if they have a problem operating with GFCI protection, all they have to do is just put in their manufacturer instructions, no GFCI, and it's done. And they didn't like that because that supersedes what I think is their overreach of power, and I don't agree with it either. I think it's disgusting. To me personally, I tried to submit a NITMAM saying that you don't need an equipment ground on anything as long as you use a GFCI, and they didn't like that one.
Well,
but that's true. I mean, and then they're saying, oh well, yeah, it'll work. GFCI will function without a equipment ground. I was like, cool. Well, I'm not putting equipment ground on anything. I'll just put everything on GFCI. They're like, no, we didn't mean that. Okay, well, we got you on contradictory statements here.
Well, I'll say this. Even Tabitha will agree with this. As an inspector, we've always, even when I was an inspector, chief electrical inspector for City of Grapevine, one of the things, even as I was coming up through the trade and everything, if the manufacturer told you to do something, that's what you did.
Yeah.
And you know why that is? Because in the end, they're the ones that are responsible for that equipment.
Yeah, they're assuming the liability.
That's right. That's why you do it. And that's why when you go back and look at 110.2, they do this whole thing about the use and listing of product certification of equipment. You need to look at the definitions of approved, identified, labeled, and listed. But hey, when we get over here, the code supersedes it. I mean, that makes total no sense to me whatsoever. But
I agree. We probably should move on because we got to get to Willie Quiz here quick.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then they made another revision. This is to clarify when you're dealing with the term available fault current here. And what this will help do, this is to eliminate the need for you to take and also include the total impedance. Because when you actually look at total impedance is already considered when you're determining what the available fault current is anyway. So they just fixed some wording there to help clarify that, and that helps tie in when we're looking at 110.24 A and B.
Nice.
Okay. Now they made some big changes here. This is dealing with your arc flash warning or marking, and what they did, they made a revision here, and what they're clarifying here is what the marking requirements are going to be for the electrical equipment when you have your different types of hazard due to arc flash. So with this revision, what this helps expand to make sure everybody understands that it applies to all service and feeder service equipment. And as they're doing that, it actually what it does, it helps correlate with all your other recognized industry practices. Okay.
Sure.
So with this here, this provides the examples of when arc flash marking is required. That's basically what it is. And of course, you got timestamp requirements here. And this is to help reflect when that arc flash assessment completion date was. So
True.
you'll see they've got certain things there. I mean, you can look at all the screen, but the thing I want to point out is they specifically state it's likely you need these arc flash markings when you're likely to work on it, when you're doing what? Examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while it's what? Energized. Okay?
Yeah, and that's a big one, man. That's like, I'm going to try to expand on that more. I did kind of get open Tabitha's eyes a little bit about that one, and that was cool because, you know, with those VAB units, you could energize the hell out of them, and you have to shut that switch off to open them, and there's no arc flash hazard that's present with those in the open position because everything that's in the working space is de-energized. The only thing that's still energized is like the terminals that's behind a barrier. So we actually examine that pretty closely. And
well, one of the things I'll also say on this is one part that is in the National Electrical Code, but you also need to go over and you need to look at 130.5B. And when you go over and, well, actually, when you're going to look at more than just 5B, but you look over at 130.5, and that's
in 70E?
That's 70E.
Okay.
And when you get over and look at it, where you're going to pick up the equipment labeling is going to be 130.5H. Okay? And when you go over and pick up that, you're going to see it's almost exactly the same. It's not exactly, but there's a lot of stuff on there that does match. So you're going to need to go over there and look at that to make sure you got the right information. It'll have the nominal system voltage there. It'll have the arc flash boundary, and then it'll say at least, like when you get to number 3 here, it says the available instant energy or minimal level of PPE. When you go over there, it's going to have at least one of the following, and it's all going to be set there. And that's the equipment labeling. And then when you get in and you start looking at how often you need to do it, they're going to tell you over in 130.5 that you're going to be doing that at least once every 5 years. Okay.
Thanks so much for joining, Dan G. He said he just had my first arc flash safety class and quiz. Will not forget some of those graphic videos for sure. Dude, that's an excellent comment. I've seen before guys' arms get blowed off by the disconnect door.
Hell yeah, you can.
Like, it's crazy. And some of the incident energy we've seen out in gas and oil, I mean, it's like a nuclear bomb going off with some of those reactions and stupid things that people do. Like, I think one of them was the guy changed the air pressure. It was like one of those vacuum switches, and he changed the air pressure somehow, and it just like blew him to pieces, you know?
Yeah, I give a little history on this, because I'm on the 70 committee. I probably won't be much longer because I got too much other stuff going on, but I've been on pretty much since it started. And, when I was on there, basically we just worried about shock protection, and then we got into all the arc flash and blast and all that stuff. But if you look over time, they added, we added tables. Like you go in and look now, you got in 70 table 130.7 C15 A, B, and C. When you go over, I was actually on task group to help develop those tables and stuff. Well, mainly that was developed mainly for contractors. And the reason we did that, because when the contractor went out on the job, they needed to be able to know, and it doesn't matter if you're doing a calculation or using the table. There's 3 pieces of information that you have to have. You got to know what the available fault current is, short circuit current, whatever you want to call it. You need to know the clearing time of the overcurrent device and the distance. Now, once you got those 3, then you can start making assumptions. Well,
hey, so spoiler alert, the distance is not the the working clearance.
No. I'm not going to go into every bit of that because it takes me too long to go through all that. Yeah. But when it basically, the typical is 18 inches, that's basically your arm length. Okay, that's put in the calculation. But when you go in and you look at all this stuff, then when we put the tables together, right below the table, there were certain parameters you had to meet. And if you didn't meet those parameters, you couldn't use the table and you had to use the calculation method. Okay, that's how it was put together. Well, over time, we started realizing they wasn't able to get the available fault current and stuff, especially at the service and all that. So then they added 110.24 A and B, and that's now why you see the available fault current at the equipment. That way you can take and use that available fault current to help you determine using the table whether or not you can use it or not. Okay, so that's how it all really got started. But what I will say is you need to pay real close attention to stuff that is happening in the National Electrical Code and tying this in. So you're going to be tying this in eventually with 110.24, and we'll make reference and all that with our code change publication.
Nice.
Right?
Okay.
Then they did another one here, the identification of the disconnecting means, and all they did was to make a revision here to help clarify what the marking requirements are for the disconnect. That's all it is. So you'll notice they're going to make reference back to 110.21B, and this is your marking criteria for the environment and the field applied label for adequate guidance. So in other words, if I was just given a signal of something, the label would be in yellow. If it was a warning, we're going to do it in what? Orange. If it's danger, it's done in what? Red. Okay? So I think that's a good change that needed to be there, and we'll highlight all them colors in our code change book. Right. Then this is actually a really good one here, because all they did, this is where you're going to get over 1,000 votes here. So they're basically taking the exact same thing that's over in 110.29, moving it over to 110.39, and they're telling you if it's over 1,000 votes, you're basically applying the same requirements. It has to be visible and within more than 50 foot. So in other words, it has to be in sight from. Okay.
Yeah,
same requirement.
Like that one. I like that one. I actually witnessed somebody almost get blowed up on a 4160 motor because they locked out the control device, and they could have still energized it from the control building.
Sure. So, and and that's one reason I like going over these. And we'll have a full setup with this for everybody to look at. As I was showing in the earlier podcast, if you looked up at the top, we have a box up there with other related standards, and you'll see OSHA in there, 70E, 70B, and UL. But when we get over and we're dealing with hazardous locations, you'll see it change up. You'll have NFPA 496, 497, and 499. Okay? Right. So, we're always, fixing it to what works best.
Is this number 5?
This one is, I forgot to take out that D there because it goes on the next page. But This is your electrical connections, 110.40. You can tie this back in. This is for all your over 1,000 volts here and 1,500 volts for DC. But it basically looks like if you go over and look at 110.14. Okay? So what they've done, they've just created another one right here with the temperature limitations and everything. And if you go in there and read it, it's almost exactly word for word. I mean, there are some little bit differences and stuff, but like if I'm looking at temperature limitations here, it says the last sentence: conductors with temperature ratings than specified for termination shall be permitted to be used for capacity adjustment, correction, or both.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So when you get into high voltage, you got different type of temperatures on there, so you'd be able to use a higher temperature. Okay.
Well, we're not only getting into high voltage, we're getting into high voltage live.
Mm-hmm. And that, folks, gets you through Article 110. And next week we'll be looking at Article 120. That's going to kick back to where all the information that was contained in Article 220 has now been moved to Article 120.
All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone joining. Dan is a new guy that popped in, so appreciate you popping in, Dan.
Sure thing, brother.
Make sure and subscribe to our channel. It looks like we have Adam popping up in here. What's up, Adam?
How's it going, guys?
We still letting him on the podcast?
I want to let you know me and Adam, we did a little scheming behind your back, and we decided that we're going to try to make a quiz that Adam would have all the right answers and you'd have to copy his answers. So just letting you know, it was a little behind the scenes. Like, I mean, I know Adam's not going to agree with me, but like, we want King James to copy your answers there, Adam. Like, you're going to have the right answers. Dude,
so it's on Canada. I can already see that. So yeah, you already told me that.
The whole Pandora's box was opened when I talked to Moss, and he said the reason you were drinking pickle juice was because of him. And so then I just started cracking up laughing because I just thought, Moss tells you drink pickle juice, you go right to your fridge, you grab the pickle juice, and you start pounding. I was like, whoa. I never would imagine that was the whole secret behind it, you know? So you got me, man. You got me. So
awesome.
This Willie quiz. Oh, look, we got Worm Brothers jumping in. Oh, King James already showed it. Welcome in, Worm Brothers. Appreciate you, sir.
What's up, brother? All right, let's roll the Willie quiz.
Do it.
All right. Before we get started, he asked me last week, he goes, I'll just pick a topic. I said, okay. I said, how about Pirates? And no, we're doing Canadian hockey and freaking pickles. I think I'm being scammed here.
You get the next one. Like Adam already was in line.
I'm calling a bunch of crap on this.
Yeah,
all right.
So you get next week. All right. So, what Canadian NHL team once had a mascot named Winger, a 7-foot tall bird in hockey gear? Was it A, Ottawa Senators? Was it B, Calgary Flames? Was it C, Winnipeg Jets? Was it D, Edmonton Oilers? Or was it E, Montreal Canadiens? Good luck, everyone.
You know, it's interesting because I remember watching a game one time. The Dallas Stars were playing. They were playing Detroit. And I could have swore they had a mascot called Winger. That's what come to my mind right off, but I don't see it up there.
Well, I tried to take a page out of your book, King James. If it's not in the answers, it's not right. So, I mean, I wished I could have thrown Detroit in there. I actually thought about doing it, but I think Adam actually knows this one. I think he has a secret.
Well, I know he's going for the Winnipeg Jets, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
with
I was gonna say. I think. Yeah, I know it should be C. Winnipeg Jetsy Wetsies.
Oh man!
All right, so Daniel goes C. Winnipeg Jets. Oh man, so I mean King James is like already in the copy mode, so we'll see if he.
No,
wants
I answered first before anybody on that one.
So you're saying Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah.
All right, so King James, if there was a second answer that you could pick that was not Winnipeg Jets, what would it be?
So nobody got it. Oh, all right. Oh hell, let's see. Oh hell, honestly, I have no freaking idea, but I'll go with.
Where's your lucky coin at? You still have your lucky coin?
Yeah, I just don't want to flip it that many times. I'm gonna go with the Ottawa Senators.
Ottawa Senators, that is a good answer, but everyone is wrong. It is actually B, Calgary Flames. So,
Damn.
I didn't even know that when I first started researching it. I was like, wow, and I got a picture of them and everything.
I just
All right.
guessed. I had no idea.
All right, so question number 2. Which U.S. president was known to drink pickle juice regularly, claiming it helped with his digestion the same as Adam? Was it A, Abraham Lincoln? Was it B, John F. Kennedy? Was it C, Thomas Jefferson? Was it D, Richard Nixon? Or was it E, George Washington? Good luck, everyone.
Damn, I really have no freaking idea. I'm trying to just look at when it was readily available.
You still haven't copied Daniel's answer yet, so.
I'm gonna go with Abraham.
Abraham Lincoln. That's a good one.
I'm
He's
gonna
over
go
there.
with Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Looks like Daniel is going Thomas Jefferson. Oh, and drum roll, please. And boom, Adam and Daniel J are correct. They have Thomas Jefferson. He actually didn't just say pickle juice. He said all pickled vegetable juice. So he drank them all. He didn't just drink just pickle
Really?
juice. So he was not discriminating on that at all.
I had no
Question-
freaking idea.
Question. Oh, dude, I was not making this to where I was trying to get you wrong on stuff. So I just want you to clarify that, I want you to have a fair chance with our guests here. All right, so question number 3. In which Canadian province... Did I sell that one? Did you believe it? All right, question number 3. In which Canadian province was the first commercial pickle production facility established in the early 1900s? Was it A, Alberta? Was it B, Ontario? Was it C, Quebec? Was it D, Saskatchewan? Or was it E, British Columbia? Good luck, everyone.
Well, another one. I have no freaking clue.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm honestly, I just wanted to, get a nice fair quiz out there, So,
Well,
Daniel's going B, Ontario. That's a good guess there, Daniel.
Yeah, I'll follow Daniel's lead. I'll go with B, Ontario as well.
That was my first think, that or Quebec, but you just had C on the last one, so I'll go Ontario.
All right, and everyone gets a correct answer because they copied Daniel. So awesome.
I had no freaking clue, I'll be honest.
Yeah, great job copying Daniel on that one. Daniel with 2 correct answers and a tie. We were gonna have to look at the tiebreaker tonight because I don't know if we're gonna have a tie or not. King James might be behind too much. All right. So what quirky snack has gained popularity in some hockey rinks? A. Pickled stuffed donuts. B. Pickled juice slushies. C. Deep fried maple pickles. D. Pickled popcorn. Or E. Pickle and duck pizza. Good luck, everyone.
Pickle and duck pizza. Ugh. All right. I have no freaking idea.
I'll go with B on this one.
Ooh, that's weird though. I don't know.
B. Pickle juice slush.
Yeah, you would like a pickle juice slushy there, Adam.
Oh, yes, please.
Looks like Daniel is going C. Deep fried maple. Oh, dude, maple pickle. Like, dude, deep fried pickles are dope. I don't know about the maple in there, but yeah. So Daniel goes C. Deep fried maple pickles. Adam, I don't know.
I'm gonna go with. Well, I'll do something different. I'll go. Sounds sickening, but wouldn't surprise me. I'll go with A. Pickle stuffed donuts.
Okay. So, Adam, have you had any pickle juice slushies over there in Canada?
Not yet for me. I just kind of went with B because I know Manitoba is like the capital province kind of for like Slurpees, slushies. So that's why I went with the option B there.
Well, that was a good option because you are correct. B is the correct answer. So Adam jumps into the lead tonight, and he is tied with Daniel J. So we have a good race going on here.
No, he's up one on Daniel.
Oh yeah, he's up.
I'm down 2, so there's no way I can win.
Well, we won't need the tiebreaker. All right. Question number 5. What is the slang term for when a hockey player gets caught awkwardly between 2 opposing players? What does that say?
Akin.
Okay, akin to being trapped like a pickle. I thought it was supposed to say like being trapped like a pickle. The dill split. A. B. The pickle trap. C. The sandwich play. D. The cucumber crunch. Or E. The pickle check. Good luck, everyone.
Well, I don't know anything about hockey,
All right.
so I definitely won't know.
Daniel comes straight out with the dill split. Oh, dude, that's a good one, Daniel. That's a good one, man. I like that one.
Shoot.
I I would be willing to say that most pickles in Canada are dills. I don't think that they do the sweet pickles too much. I know me and King James, we kind of talked about it a little because he's like, where do sweet pickles come from? I'm like, I have no clue.
Well, I have heard about checking a player. I'll go pickle check since I've heard the word check in hockey.
All right, where are you at, Adam?
I'll go the dill split as well.
The dill split. And it looks like tonight that Adam takes the win with the wrong answer. It is actually called the pickle trap. I haven't heard that before. I've been following hockey a little bit, but I haven't heard the pickle trap. But I did actually research it a little bit, and it is called the pickle trap. So
never freaking heard of that.
You don't want to get in the pickle trap, but you do want to get a pickle shot for being on the show. Thanks, Adam, so much. It is a Canadian thing now. I made it a Canadian thing. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And like I say, it was really cool. I could tell that King James really tried his best to be, that know-it-all, kind of know every single
I didn't
question.
know one freaking answer out of all of that. I guessed at everything.
So it's not like me and Adam collaborated to make it that way, but I just want to let you know Adam will be putting a king crown on his vehicle and driving around Winnipeg with the whiteout. He's going to white out his whole vehicle and be driving around with a king on it. And for tonight, Winnipeg is the champs of the Willie Quiz. So
yeah, I'm kind of scared though because we are going against St. Louis Blues, and they were like the best team leading up to the playoffs. So I'm already got my tissues ready for that possible round 1 President Trophy curse exit. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that you have like a really solid team. You have a really strong captain. Your goaltenders lights out. Best American goaltender out there. So
why don't y'all just hang it up? The Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup.
So we actually have a thing. I'm actually putting a wager in Vegas that whoever wins the Stars Avs is going to take the Stanley Cup. So that's actually a wager I'm actually going to put in. I think it's like 400 to 1. So I think I'm doing it. I think I'm going to do it.
I was going to say, I don't know if you know this yet, but both of y'all teams are actually facing each other for round 1.
Yeah, we knew it.
I know. I can't believe the Stars pulled such an easy draw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Let the smack talking begin, baby.
Dude, we got Landy back. Like, that's all I care about. We got Landy back, man. Like, the whole thing is, like, everyone's like, man, is Landy ready to play? But, dude, he's on our bench. Like, it doesn't even matter. Just that guy being on our bench is a big boost to our team. So, we'll see. And, you still have some guys that are out, too. You have a lot of injuries. So,
I think about the last 2 weeks, they ain't even played them guys. They're just letting them rest. I mean, they really hadn't even played from what I was listening to them talk about on sports radio. I was like, they're not even playing. They're resting them, getting ready for the playoffs. So,
yeah, both teams, 100%. It kind of hurt me a little bit in fantasy because I have a lot of Dallas Stars, and when the Dallas Stars aren't playing, then I don't score points. So, it is what it is. But I really appreciate it, Adam. It's so much fun you coming in, joining us, and doing these collaboration podcasts with us. It's so much fun, and like I say, you're gonna have to put that crown on, take a picture. I'll post it to King James's timeline over there.
Hey, Adam, we may have a sponsor pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something. I never thought that.
Yeah, you never know.
They said they like the Canadian questions.
See?
Yeah.
I told you. I knew I'd bring it around. the thing that's so cool is that's the whole reason Adam won, because of the Canadian questions, and so that's
Canadian
why we
pickle
have
questions.
to make it. We have to make it impartial, but it could be the Canadian questions. It could be the pickle questions. So we don't know. We'll never know. But dude, I totally appreciate it, Adam.
There was
Thanks
only
so
one
much.
question there that even had anything to do with the United States. Which president drank pickle juice? That's it.
You should have known that.
I didn't know that.
All right. Well,
That's a quirky question.
mm-hmm. All right. Dude, there was no challenge flag, all right? So, well, if you have a challenge flag, then I'll address it. But, I
There's
didn't
no
see
challenge flag for me. I didn't know any of those. Never freaking heard them questions before.
Oh, man. So much fun. Good luck to the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs there.
Yep. Good
And
luck to them.
congratulations on the President's curse.
Yeah.
That's going to be so awesome. I hope that they, get past at least the first round. That's going to be awesome to see them beat the Blues. I'm not a Blues fan, so...
Yeah,
awesome.
no, I think as long as the Jets can get past the Blues, then I'm hoping they can at least make it to the third round, the Western Conference Final. I think the Blues, I think they honestly might. I don't know. It's hard to say. The playoffs are so unpredictable, but I think of all the teams we could possibly face, I think Blues have me the most worried right now.
True, yeah, they've been really hot, and I don't even think the Avs beat them in the last month. Like, I think we lost 2 games. Me and Daniel went to a game on Saturday. It was like one of the last home games of the season, and we lost 2-1, in regulation, which was rough. But we don't play good in matinee games, in the first place. I didn't really want to go to a matinee game, but we went to it, and it was fun. It was a good time, but we ended up losing regulation, and I think after that we lost in regulation again in St. Louis. So on the road. So the St. Louis is scary, and just like King James was saying, we were resting a lot of our players. Like, we didn't have our superstars out there, so it's gonna show the Avs depth, and it's gonna show all our team's depth and how we built our team. So good luck to Hellebuck. He is the best goaltender in the world, if you ask me. So he should be putting on a show and playing good hockey at the right time. So appreciate you joining, and good luck to the Jets, and kind of good luck to the Stars, but not really.
At least Cesar Blanco will be on your team, King James.
Yeah, you
I
got
don't even know
Cesar
who that
on there.
is. So,
Cesar.
I'll
He's
just
been
wait
on
and
there.
see what the series is come next Thursday.
Cesar's going to. He's going to one of the schools in Texas.
Which one?
He's a Longhorn, isn't he?
He's going to UT?
Isn't Cesar over there, Adam?
I know he's in Texas, not too far from, I want to say, Victoria, maybe?
Yeah, Victoria. I can't remember what school he's going to. I feel bad now. Like, sorry, Cesar. I don't remember what school you're going to, but I thought he said he was a Longhorn.
If he's a Longhorn, he's in, baby. There's nothing like being a Longhorn.
I'm telling you, he says he's a Longhorn, but I don't know what school. He might be a understudy of whatever school. I'll give you a hook 'em horns. I'll give you a double hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns, baby. Hook 'em up.
All right.
All right. You ready to get to your tool of the week?
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Have a good night.
See you later, brother.
You too. Have a good night, guys.
Deuces,
You too, brother.
Peace.
All right. Let's cue you up.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by Electricians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
All right. so this week I'm covering a Milwaukee tool, and they're kind of copying Klein a little bit on this one. I actually covered the Klein version of this before. They actually give you a set of 1,000 volt insulated strippers, a set of 1,000 volt insulated side cutters, a set of 1,000 volt lineman's pliers, and two 1,000 volt insulated screwdrivers. And actually, I found this set for even cheaper than the Klein, which was like around $69. So that's pretty freaking cool. Just those lineman pliers would cost you probably around $100 normally.
Yeah.
I actually was really impressed with this because the availability, like, it didn't matter which place I went to, they were always available. So with the Klein one, that was the thing that kind of, gave me a little bit of a weird feeling about it, because they were not available everywhere. And so it's frustrating when you're like, hey man, I can get this set for like $100 and I'm going to put it in my tool pouch tomorrow. Well, with the Milwaukee, you can. These are available at pretty much every store, and I actually found them cheaper than $100. The Klein ones, we were saying, were at $100, and I kind of like the Klein ones better. They kind of have like different little insignias on them and stuff that they did, which I think is cool. And the whole thing is too, I don't know for sure. The Klein ones are 100% made in America. These ones, I don't know for sure. I want to say they are, but they could just be assembled in America. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact truth on the made in America thing anymore. But the whole thing is, I think this is a good rivalry with Klein. And honestly, I wouldn't mind having this red tool pouch, this red selection in my tool pouch. I think it's fine. The dikes have a real nice high leverage. The Lymans are a little kind of weird, wonky, cheesy looking. The strippers, they do have that reflex on them, which is kind of cool. They have that little bit of a reflex on them. That'll kind of help you when you're stripping with their leverage and stuff. And the screwdrivers are pretty basic, So, like I say, it's all 1,000 volt insulated. It's a good setup. I have really not much negative to say about this Milwaukee tool setup.
Awesome. All right. Well, always good to have a good set of tools.
Yep.
All
Toss
right.
them in. Toss them in. Put them in, coach.
All right. So now I guess we're ready for going man versus machine. So let's cue it up.
For years, man tried to create artificial intelligence. On this segment, we find out, is AI smarter than King James?
So this is a good test of AI, because I haven't asked AI this question in probably 12 days or something. Like, I asked it before our last podcast, but this is kind of tricky, and I don't think AI got this one right out of the gate.
Let me type it in. I got to type it in before I do anything.
Well, I would just copy and paste it. Just copy and paste it and just drop it in.
Well, I don't. I have to go over and get it, and it takes too long.
Okay. That's all I do. I just copy, paste, boom. Done.
Okay.
But what I found out is if you ask the actual answer, or if you ask the actual question, it'll get it right. But if you put in a multiple choice, it somehow, for some reason, screws with it. It gets it wrong.
Yeah, no worries. We'll have it here in just a little bit. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
Just got to type everything in.
I mean, you probably know this one.
All right, almost got it. Just a few more minutes here. Then we'll
You don't
see.
have to put in the optional.
Alright.
Idiot.
Almost got everything together.
Nobody.
It just takes me a few seconds just to get everything typed in. Should have done that beforehand, but I was busy doing other things earlier. Didn't have time to do it
You were
all.
busy getting a Willie Quiz wrong.
All right, almost there.
Dude, that was so funny.
Okay.
You will have your topic next week, 100%. Got you.
Almost got it typed. I have to keep going back and forth to type it in. All right. Okay. Almost there. I'm
kind of interested to see. It could have it right now. I don't know.
It may. Okay. All right, I got it typed in. All right, let's go on over and see what. Let me read the question first to make sure what the answers were, because I didn't type that in. Okay. All right. I got it. I'm going to say here that it would be D, and I think it's 760.24? Somewhere there, 24 A or B, I can't remember. But I'm going with D regardless. So let's go ahead and share screen and see what AI has to say on this. Go to ChatGPT, share the screen, and let's put it in and see what it says. We're not exceeding 4.5 feet. 12 feet and 4.5 feet. I'm going to have to say they're wrong on that.
Yeah. I believe you're. I want to say you're nailed it on the code reference. Just off the top of my head, I wanted to say it was 760.22B possibly, but can we go to NFPA link?
Yeah, I'm going there now.
Okay. I can't remember off the top of my head. Like, I memorized it when I took my NISAT, but you might be right. It might be 24. I want to say like 22.
It is 24B.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 24 inches, 18 inches, so I was correct.
Is there a way you could just copy from, and just drop it in there for ChatGPT?
I got to let it know. James was right once again, and you were wrong. You need to learn to pick up the slack.
Nice. Love it.
Let's see what it
That's funny.
Okay.
All right. So, man gets another win. Machine gets another fail. So,
Yep, sure did.
Awesome. Thanks so much for setting up that segment. It's really cool because I try to do them like really super easy, but at the same time, like with you doing like your code change book and stuff, you're kind of in and out of the code a lot. So you see that, and to me, when I first saw that, I was like, no way is that right. Like 24 inches, 18 inches, like it's just ridiculous. Like
Yeah, I was going off memory there. God, been so long. I mean, you asked me some of these. I mean, sometimes I'm guessing because I hadn't looked at it in so long, but I know
Right.
pretty much where it's at. So,
Yeah, so the biggest reason that I wanted to bring up these circuit integrity cables is that the biggest mistake people make is that they don't realize that you could transition from these circuit integrity cables once you pass through that smoke wall, because they want to have that circuit integrity from
hmm
your panel to that first smoke compartment. So at that point you can change over, and then at that point you can go with a different wire length measurement. And a lot of people just run the circuit integrity cable the whole way and just go every 2 foot, and that's actually a mistake. That's a really big mistake that we run into a lot, especially with the isolation class A circuits. And so you have to just make sure that you're just doing what the code says to do. That way you're maintaining that circuit integrity. Then what you can do is you can have an approved method of changeover to a different wiring method, and then you can do whatever you want after that, you know.
hmm
The biggest thing is to get it out of that smoke compartment so you have that circuit survivability. And a lot of people get that wrong, and then especially like the 18-inch one where it's subject to physical damage. Obviously, we're gonna sleeve it, you know, but when you're in isolation class A, you have to have 4 foot separation. There's a lot of things in there, caveats that you have to look into. So that's the reason I bring these up, and I appreciate everyone who follows Nat King Code page. I do it for a reason, because I want you guys to know the code. I don't want you to look up the code.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's go in and let's do wall shame. That's the last one.
Yep.
Shame. 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 Shame.
Dude, I love that freaking chick with the bell that's like, shame, shame.
Shame.
Like, dude,
Shame.
they
Shame
like
on
walked
you.
the queen through the whole city, like, in shame.
That's funny.
Dude, serious? Like, oh man, what is going on here? Like, I mean, to me, like, is this even real? Like, did this even really happen? Like, when, like, the minute I saw this, thanks so much, Thomas, for submitting this. What were they thinking? Like, you just take the set screws out? You don't need those.
That is interesting. That doesn't make any sense. Why they would even do that?
Man, if my impact gets tight enough, this thing is gonna so freaking make a connection.
That is something I don't even know what to really say about that.
Like when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, King James will love this one, you know, like oh man, we don't need those set screws to tighten anything. Just use these hose clamps. Like at that point, why not just put a number 8 ground in there and call it a concrete encased electrode? You know, it's not doing anything.
I honestly, I don't even, because it looks to me like unless it was something old he had and he took the screws wasn't there and he wanted to use it. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't even know why the screws would be removed.
Yeah.
That
Maybe
makes
they
no
lost
sense.
the screws. I don't know. I mean, maybe they just want to put hose clamps on there to make it look like it's.
That's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know. True shame picture. Thanks so much, Thomas, from
Yeah, that's a
one
good
of the
one.
group members.
That's a good picture there.
Yeah, I mean, you just save that in your, profile pictures, and then just bring it back up every now and then, and just say, I found this in 2025, and it was on the Wall of Shame show, and appreciate it. Thanks so much for contributing to all the stuff we're doing. Means a lot, James. What was the topic that you want me to do next week? I have to do your topic next week, because Adam actually requested
Pirates.
this. What's that?
Pirates.
Okay. All right. Next week is going to be pirates and pickles.
Okay.
No, I'm just
We're on
kidding.
the pickle kick now.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
see
joking. No, it's so much fun. I really appreciate everyone joining. Thanks so much for all the contributions we get, and like I say, everyone that comes up with us live. It's so much fun to do this, and we had like Worm Brothers. We had Daniel J jump in. Worm Brothers, he shows up every week late, but he's worth the wait. So appreciate you, Worm Brothers. We got new guy Don show up. Thanks, Don. Emphasizing 70E. That is 100% our goal. We have Weed Man. He's still waiting in the chat. He's been waiting for a little bit, but he's gonna still wait because he's Weed Man. So that's pretty cool. Appreciate that. We had Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector come in, give some really good insight. Appreciate you. We had DJ just hanging out just for the comments, man. Dude, thanks, bro. We have to go watch the Avs game, man. Let's go watch on Saturday if you want, man. Let's go check it out. It means a lot having all these people like pop in, join us, and don't forget to smash that like and subscribe to the channel. It do a lot of good things for us, man. Appreciate it. Think we're getting close to 400 now. Moving up all the time with our subs and everything else. So
Sure we are.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, King James. You are the man putting these things together. You always have like such great insight, and you're way up on Machine. I think Machine only got one right so far. So Man vs. Machine scoreboard just got really tricky. So we're gonna have to keep checking that, and I'm gonna have to keep bringing my A game when it comes to questions.
That was a good question. That's one I had to think about for a second because it's been a while since I looked at that. You've been putting a lot of those questions up lately. I have to look for it. Remember.
Yeah, it's kind of a balancing act. You have to it has to be easy, but it's like the easy ones are the hardest, because it's like, yeah, it's right there, but, it's not something you practice. Like, you're the one that told me about that when I started, like, getting a few wrong in the death match. Like, I think I got a couple wrong, maybe.
I said it's always the easy ones.
Yeah, it was just so stupid. It was like, what intervals should EMT be supported? And I was like, 3 foot, and then it was like the answer was 10 foot. I'm just like, what? Like, how did I get that wrong? But it was the easiest stupid one I got wrong. But no, so awesome. Thanks so much for taking your time to put this together, and that'd be awesome. To all our sponsors out there, I will give you a free meme for your sponsorship, and we will post a meme on our podcast and stuff, and it'll be really funny. It'll be something that promotes your business. So I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, King James. Means a lot that we do this, and thanks to everyone out there that I mentioned. We are just going leaps and bounds, and we still have 2 up in here, 2 over on Rumble. Thanks so much over to the Rumble side. Appreciate you guys, and we will.
I was just looking at Rumble. We got 9 views over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
doing good.
Awesome. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for joining. And as always, remember, make every day an easy day. I'm out.
All right. We'll see everybody next Thursday. Peace.